Welcome everyone. It is Monday the 11th of September 2017. I am the Diligent Rascal. Welcome to my channel on YouTube, the Diligent Rascal. Get me on Twitter at a Diligent Rascal. That's at a Diligent Rascal. Hit me up on there if you want to ask me anything, or if you want any topics covered or anything like that. Follow me on there anyway. We have a bit of chit chat and whatnot on there with a few people. So welcome on this day, as I said, Monday, September the 11th, 2017. 16 years on from 9/11, the event that basically changed the world. There's no doubt about that. It changed a lot of things, but this is what we're going to talk about today. So apologies for not doing a video sooner. I've had a little bit of time out, had a few things on. I haven't really had the time to do a video. I know there's been some mad shit going on. There's some really crazy weather going on in some parts of the world. A lot of people are kind of having a dispute at the moment to see if the news is covering them equally and things like that. There's a lot of stuff going on. Politics is crazy. We've got Brexit going on. It's a fucking nightmare. Balls up. We've got Trump in America just being Trump. And fucking had enough, really, to be honest. It's just getting a bit too much. And what with today being 9/11, the only real subject we could do was that. So Monday, September the 11th, 2017, 16 years on from 9/11, 2001, where if you've been living in a cave for the last 16 years, you won't know, but I will go over it again. Basically, some planes hit the Twin Towers in America, in New York, and it was said it was Islamic terrorists. And since then, I mean, before then there was stuff going on anyway, but like in the eyes of everybody, there's been the thing that's been rammed down our throats now, Islamic terrorism since 2001. But what the fuck happened? What went on? The fact is that most people, when you talk about 9/11, can only ever, and they will only ever quote from newspapers or from the telly, and they will only ever just say to you, it was terrorists that done it. They had the list of hijackers, blah, 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 blah. That's all wrong, and it's been shown to be wrong. There has never been a court case. There never will be a court case, because then evidence will have to be found, and the evidence was completely removed from the scene straight away. All the debris was just taken straight away. All the metal was taken out, sent to China, scrapped up. It was all just the crime scene was completely desecrated. Anyway, we'll get into that. But what actually happened? People automatically will just go Muslim terrorists, because that's what newspapers and the media say. But anybody who has looked at it in any kind of independent kind of way will tell you that it just don't add up. Nothing adds up. Nothing at all adds up. This is why they can't have a court case. They can never have a court case on 9/11, because the evidence overwhelmingly will just say, this is some kind of fucking bullshit that you're trying to tell us. So let's crack on with it. 9/11, 2001. What was I doing? Where was I? Who was I? What was going on? I was about 19-ish, 20, something like that. And I was working. What was I doing? I was working for a well-known bookmakers. I was a manager of a store, and I had the day off. Funnily enough, can't remember what day of the week it was, but I know I had the day off. So I woke up in the morning and looked on the TV, and one plane had already hit. And what the news was saying is it was hijacked planes, and they've hit the building. So I got ready and I went to my pal's house down the road, because he was about that day for whatever reason. And I think he lived with his parents, but they were away somewhere. Anyway, so I went to my pal's house And by the time I got round there, he said, "Have you seen what's going on? Another plane has hit." And then another plane hit. So we were watching it. I was jamming there all day and watched it all unfold and saw what went on. And anyway, a couple of years after that, I was at university and a friend of mine there, big up Tundi, bad man, he said to me, "Yo, you seen these? I've got a load of Illuminati DVDs." And by that time, I knew what the Illuminati was because I did a bit of reading of my grandfather's books that I had, and I knew about occultism and Satanism and numerology and shit like that, Buddhism, Tibetan Book of the Dead and shit like that. So I knew that there was another world below, beneath, above and everywhere around the world that we know to be reality. There was other things going on. So I was always in tune to that anyway. So Tundi says to me, "Yo, check out these DVDs." And one of them was an Illuminati thing. It was like by Chris Everard. And it was like that Enigma TV. There's a lot of talk about that Everard geezer. I heard recently that he... What went on? He was... I don't want to say something that isn't true. I'll just tell you what I've heard or what I've read. That somehow he was caught with something dodgy on his computer. A woman who knew him somehow. That's what I mean. I don't really know too much about it. I read a little bit into it. Anyway, basically, he had something dodgy on his computer. When it was found out, he said, "No, I was doing a thing on paedophilia, and that's why I've got this stuff on my computer, because I was looking into this, that, and the other." So I don't really know what went on. Anyway, Chris Everard, Enigma TV at the time, he put a lot of stuff out about the Illuminati and blood rituals and Satanism and all this kind of stuff. And I'd already seen some of his stuff anyway. But T had all these DVDs and that, like fucking hours worth. Hours and hours worth. So he gave me these DVDs, and in the DVD there was a thing called Loose Change. Alright, and I don't really know if anyone else remembers this documentary. It's called Loose Change. And when I watched that documentary, because like I say, this is a couple of years after it happened, I was at uni and that. I went there as a mature student, so I wasn't like, fresh, and T was a mature student as well. So, you know what I mean? We was watching this stuff, and, I was watching Loose Change, and that's the first time I thought, the whole thing was dodgy anyway. It just seemed really dodgy. Like fucking flying planes into a building and that. And then I watched Loose Change, and like everything just clicked. Like that documentary, you cannot... You can't watch that DVD, right? You can't watch that DVD of Loose Change, and I'll tell you what, I will show you. I've got a thing here. Oh, that's another one. Alright. 9/11 Loose Change. Alright. Watch, if you haven't seen it, it's cool, but watch it. Even if you think you know about 9/11, or whether you think it was fucking terrorists, or whether you think it was this person, that person, or whatever, because everyone's got an opinion, everyone's got a view, and who they think it is or was. So watch this documentary, and it basically tells you what the media told you was bullshit, and it breaks it down perfectly. It's a really fucking old documentary now, but it is very, very good. At the time, it was fucking brilliant. It opened a lot of people's eyes. So anyway, Loose Change documentary. There was the documentary, like you see here, Fahrenheit 9/11. People will remember that coming out. And it come out real soon after it happened. Really, within, like say, 3 years or whatever. But the main focus of this, what he was talking about, was capitalism and the Bush administration and how they're in bed with Saudis and all that kind of stuff. And it's always been kind of pushed. If there was ever a conspiratorial side being pushed in the mainstream media, it's always been the Saudis are involved. But if you really look at it, the Saudis weren't really involved, but they not to the extent that it's been pushed. So the main push of this was kind of Saudi involvement, the Bushes and all that kind of shit, and it was the agenda for, like it says here, Afghanistan and Iraq, the wars in Iraq, the weapons of mass destruction kind of shit, which we all know was fucking bollocks. And it's been found out to be, that's why they had these things over here in the UK, putting Blair up against the commissions and all these things, having been interviewed and that. So, So we had Fahrenheit 9/11 come out after the thing, but before that come out, I'm pretty sure, or around the same time, Fahrenheit 9/11, it was Loose Change, was the one for me that I watched and I thought, fucking hell. Because in Fahrenheit 9/11, it was still being pushed, it was the terrorists. Do you know what I mean? It was still the mainstream narrative of, it was these guys, Muslims, whatever. So then you've got Loose Change that came out and fucking smashed everything out of the water and basically just said, look, what the media are telling you is complete bullshit. There's no planes, there's nothing, there's nothing at the Pentagon, there's no debris, there's no footage, in the crash or where the plane crashed or where it was shot down or whatever you believe. There was no blood, there was no bodies, there was no nothing. So all the evidence that they try and tell you is fucking completely broken down in this Loose Change. It's fucking brilliant. If you haven't seen it already, please watch it. Even though it's 16 years down the line, it doesn't really matter. Still watch this documentary. It's fucking brilliant. It's a really mad little subject, this, because even 16 years later, there's been no criminal trial, there's been no investigation. The 9/11 Commission was fucking set up to fail. I'll cover that a little bit here and who was actually head of that and why they were head of that and who they actually were and what fucking was. So it's a really fucked up little thing because it's pivotal in a long line of things that's happening and have happened and is happening going forward. There is this agenda. And if you want to believe that or not is down to you. But the fact is, I can't sit here, and a lot of people can't sit back and watch events that are going on in the world and can't put the dots and add them up and put them all together. So, at that time when I was at university, a couple of years after, I think it was, around 2 or 3 years after I was at university, watched Loose Change and thought, fuck me, wow. And then I started really delving into 9/11. And what you find is that there's a lot of links and there's a lot of past statements and there's a lot of ins and outs that have to do with Israel and Mossad and people who are in, Israeli Defense Force and things like that. So, we've got who's the perpetrators. This is what we are yet to find out. We still don't really fucking know. There's still loads of people, even more so now, that think, oh, it's bollocks. But people still go ahead with this whole Muslim terrorist thing, even though they don't really believe 9/11 was, all that it was said that it was. Okay, so sorry, I keep losing track of where I am really because there's so much to keep on top of with this. And I'm trying to keep like a thread going through a timeline of where we're at now. So, like I say, when it happened, I was working full time for the bookies and I had a day off, went to my pal's house, saw it kick off. In fact, 3 years after that, went to university. My boy T gave me this documentary Loose Change, watched it. Thought, fucking hell. And then started delving into it. When you look into it, as I say, if you haven't seen Loose Change, please watch it, because it actually goes in. I haven't really got time now to go into how they did it, or how it was actually done, because there's even conjecture about that. People were saying the planes weren't even real, it was missiles. Now, I agree with the Pentagon, it was a missile, there was no way it was a plane. The plane goes through the side of the building, supposedly, and the hole where it is, there's no wings either side, there's no engines, there's no tail, there's no nothing, there's no skidding coming up to it, nothing. It was complete bullshit. All the places, all the way around the Pentagon, had all the video footage confiscated. even, you know, gas stations across the street and that people that work there said that people came in and took the tapes. And then when they were asked to release some footage, they released 2 stills, so 2 photographs, and it looks like a missile. There's no plane, it's just a flash. So all that kind of stuff is dealt with in Loose Change. I haven't really got time to deal with it, because there's, like I say, a lot of people, including, there's another thing called Where Did the Towers Go This Here, which is by Dr. Judy Wood, and she talks about an energy weapon that did it, because everything was just completely smashed into smithereens. It was completely dustified, like everything, or dustification, whatever you want to fucking call it. The thing was completely, everything was just smashed to smithereens. So a lot of people say it was nuclear. There was something to do with nuclear. There was a nuclear explosion, because I'll have to go a little bit into Loose Change and these kind of theories just very quickly, because it does go into kind of who perpetrated it and how they did it. So everything was completely turned to dust. These buildings hit the floor in record speed, free fall speed. There was no resistance. So that means it wasn't crumbling. It was blown up and it just literally fell to the floor. People say there was explosives in the building, or they say it was either this, like Dr. Judy Wood says, it was a directed energy weapon, or other people like James Perloff talks about a nuclear device. And I'm more inclined to say it was a nuclear device that was in the bottom of the building. If you look at footage from around the time, I think there's a little bit in Loose Change, but there is lots of footage about on YouTube of, at the time, these planes hit up high, but the devastation after them planes hit down low in the bottom of these buildings, lobbies completely fucking obliterated. There was molten metal and molten rock in the bottoms of the towers, which can only have been done with really high heat and high energy, which is like, it's got to be a nuclear weapon really, or something, or one of these, a directed energy weapon or something like that. I don't really know, but it wasn't, the planes hitting the building did not cause it to cause them to fall. It just didn't. You know, it's been proved recently as well by, who was it? Let's have a little look here. It was a University of Alaska, Fairbanks, the Institute of Engineering. They did a study and they said Building 7 could not have been brought down by the office fires alone. There's no way that could have happened. And there's no way, if you look at the scientific, like, people take the piss out of the memes because people want to joke when they don't really know what they're talking about. But the fact is, what they're taking the piss out of, these memes, jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams. They say it jokingly, taking the piss out of conspiracy theorists, but the fact is, it doesn't. you like, what is funny about that? Like, how are you laughing? Like, you're taking the piss out of people saying, oh yeah, well, jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams, that's why 9/11 the planes couldn't have brought it down. Well, yeah, exactly. Fucking give me some evidence that tells me that it does. The jet fuel burns up pretty much instantly. It's only if it's a constant heat, and even that constant heat, the maximum burning temperature of that fuel could not have melted them steel beams. It was ensured specifically to withstand. No building has ever fell from fire, but it was built, to withstand all this shit. Earthquakes, fucking planes hitting the side of it, the lot, alright? So, all these, what the evidence points to is really is explosives in the building, not the planes bringing the building down. Didn't really want to go too deep into this, but you have to go into it a little bit to cover, you know, the who done it and how they did it. So we're talking about you know, there was molten rock and metal in the basements of these buildings. Right, that would not have happened from a plane hitting up high and everything falling down on top of it. And the destruction in the bottom levels when the firemen went in. You can see this footage; it's all over the internet. So we're saying possibly a nuclear weapon in the bottom, a small one or whatever. So these documentaries, these things are trying to point out what went on, what's going on, how did they do it. Watch Loose Change, have a look into Judy Wood. Good stuff. Alright, Fahrenheit 9/11, watch it still. It shows another agenda as well of what is actually going on, the relationships between our governments and the Saudis and all these kind of people. So, as we get to 9/11, though, what we're talking about when I'm talking about the agenda that's going forward and what has been planned for years and years and years, these things have been documented where people have made predictions. And these people that are making predictions are specific people from a specific group of people. And when you talk about this group of people, you often get attacked massively. All right, so the fact is, I'm just quoting these people. I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm just giving you information of things that I've gathered over the years. Like I say, when I watched Loose Change, it opened my eyes to actually say, right, 9/11 is not what they're fucking telling us. So what the fuck is it? So I delved in, and I have really gone in. And now we're 16 years down the line. I'm 16 years old. I've been looking at this for a long time, and the fact is, anyone who's looked at it for any amount of time will tell you that it was not what they fucking told you. Okay? It was not what they told you. End of. So these things have been predictively programmed or predicted for a little while. Alright? So you've had people, let's talk about what should we talk about first? Alright, let's talk about what happened after 9/11 and the fact that the crime was never investigated. There was no blue ribbon investigation panel. There was nothing. And the people that were in charge of this, two specific people, John Ashcroft, who was the Attorney General at that time, and Michael Chertoff, as well, who was his assistant, who was actually the one in charge of actually making the prosecution. But he couldn't make the prosecution because they had no evidence gathered. That was their job. And Michael Chertoff is an Israeli citizen. He's dual national. And you'll see a lot of these people popping up, these Israeli citizens popping up that are in positions of power in America. Anyone who's delved into that and knows about AIPAC and knows about people like Cynthia McKinney, who, when she went there, she exposed, basically, if you don't sign up to AIPAC and their agenda, then you are fucked, basically. They run the shit. So these predictions and these things about 9/11, you know, the fact there was no investigation and that, and it's been completely glossed over. No one knows who did it, really. It's all speculation still, and we're all talking about Muslim terrorists because that's what's been the narrative that's been pushed. But what we saw before 9/11, a few years before, we saw these predictive predictions. And we saw them in 1995. We saw them from a gentleman who is called Benjamin Netanyahu. And you probably know exactly who that is. If you don't, it is the Israeli Prime Minister. And Mr. Netanyahu, in his 1995 book called Fighting Terrorism, he actually predicts that going forward, the Islamic terrorism, and this is a direct quote from his book in 1995, which, in fact, he goes back to himself 2 or 3 days after 9/11 when he was being interviewed on the TV. This footage is actually on YouTube as well, where he refers back to it and he says, well, actually, if you look back at my book I wrote in 1995 called Fighting Terrorism, I predict that the future of the Islamic terrorists will mean that we won't have a car bomb in the bottom of the World Trade Center. We will have a nuclear device in the basement of the World Trade Center. And that is a direct quote from his book. In his book, he says, and I quote, "It will be a nuclear bomb in the basement of the World Trade Center," end quote. And then boasted about it, of his prediction, just days after 9/11 on the TV, saying, yeah, I said about this, I said it would happen, I said it would be like that. And he says it's a nuclear bomb in the basement. And if you look at the destruction in the basement of 9/11, this footage is available, go and have a look. It looks like a fucking bomb has gone off in the bottom of them buildings. Molten rock, molten metal. So you get these predictions. 1995, Benjamin Netanyahu making these predictions. Around 1997, 1998, I believe, the Project for the New American Century. A document was put together by the Project for the New American Century. So the Project for the New American Century, PNAC, is a neoconservative think tank, and it was put together, and it's got there's 25 people who signed up to its founding statement, and 10 of them went on to serve under George Bush. So there were Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, and Wolfowitz. Alright, and these fuckers were the ones that have written this fucking doctrine going forward. And this Project for a New American Century is what it says here, is what they were looking for was they were rebuilding America's defences. It was strategy, forces and resources for a new century, in which they discussed the need for the US to assert its military authority around the globe to secure its strategic objectives. Alright, so basically they wanted to go around the world, as it says here, to shape a new century favourable to American principles and interests, along with challenging regimes hostile to the US interests and values. Alright, so what the fuck is the US interest and values? Alright, that is a whole nother video in itself. What the USA, what their interests and values are, what do they stand for? And as anyone who fucking knows anything about anything, these fuckers just love war, destruction, death, and fucking opulence, degradation. These fuckers are sub-fucking human. These people in charge of this country, alright? But it's not just America. Don't get it twisted. I'm not just going in on America. I'm talking about England, Britain, I'm talking about the British Empire. There's a lot to do with this fucking current situation. They were the ones initially that set up Israel, and they gave control of Arabia to the Sauds, the Wahhabis. So the Britain is fucking right in there, mate. And we're talking about the British Empire, but who really is the British Empire? That's what we talk about as well later on. So anyway, so we've got this Project for a New American Century, and they basically put forward a plan to attack 7 countries in 5 years. All right, 7 countries. Okay, they disclosed a plan, and it circulated around the Pentagon in 2001 to attack 7 countries in 5 years. And they were the ones that the New American Project for a New American Century group talked about. And they are Iraq, Syria, Iran, Libya, Lebanon and Somalia and Sudan. I would also add to that Venezuela. And I don't know why it's not in this, and like I say, I would whack Venezuela in there as well. Because what is going on in Venezuela, what happens in South America, America has a lot to do with, we've got the Iran-Contra scandal, got a lot of stuff going on there anyway, so I would add Venezuela there. So these countries here, and these countries right here are the ones getting fucked right now. These are the ones that have got ISIS running through it, okay? These are the ones with Muslims, these are the ones, Somalia and Sudan, they're the ones that are being pushed now as well, with the, also with the Muslim, they're talking about, fundamentalist Islam there, and they're also talking about this female genital mutilation, which is the circumcision for girls, which is only happening in Somalia and Sudan, pretty much. So they're the ones being pushed at the moment. So these countries here are the ones that are on fucking fire right now, alright? These countries here, Iraq, Syria, Iran is always being a focus. They can't quite get in there. Syria, at the minute, there's a lot of stuff. That's a whole nother video in itself as well, because the guy they're trying to get rid of there is kind of standing firm. We had Gaddafi in Libya, a whole lot of shit went on there. He wanted to not use dollars, he wanted to use gold, he wanted to help Africa, etc., etc. So these are the countries, and I believe these are the countries that don't, a lot of these countries don't owe money to the World Bank, the IMF, and things like that. So the Project for a New American Century wanted to attack these 7 countries, okay? And these 7 countries, I would like to add, are the countries that pretty much surround Israel. And if you look at the Greater Israel Project, you will see that it involves basically them taking back a lot of land from the Middle East. Or just not taking it back, but just stealing it ultimately to making it the borders of a certain time. The Greater Israel Project look into that. Alright? So we're talking about Israel's possible involvement in this, okay? And when we're 16 years down the line and we've had Islamic terrorism going absolutely crazy around the world, supposedly, right? We've had all these events, all this stuff going on, all Muslim terrorists, right? Not one fucking single attack on Israel. Why? It out of all the places in the world that would have been getting attacked by fundamentalist Muslims, should really be Israel, but it's not. It's not been attacked at all, not been touched. Bit of a fucking red flag straight away. So as we get onto these things, these predictive things where they're talking about things going forward, this document talks about the plan that they have would be unlikely to manifest unless there was a new Pearl Harbor event, like a catalyzing event that they would be able to then push forward with their agenda under the guise of something else. All right, so like all these proxy wars and stuff that's going on, certain regimes in the world that they viewed as deeply hostile to America, they would then be going in and taking these fuckers out. And they wanted to take control of Iraq, whether Saddam Hussein was in control or not. They wanted that country. They put their own puppets in. This is what they do. All right, this is what America's core interests and values is fucking taking over the whole world, right? And they're doing it using Israel, or Israel is using them, whatever the relationship is, there is a relationship, right? So these things are just not being talked about, all right? When everyone talks about 9/11, they just talk about what's in the newspapers. But if you actually look at the information and things that are going on, it is not exciting stuff to sit through and read this shit. It is not fucking fun to spend your time looking at this shit. But the fact is, if you want to get down to the truth of it, you have to look at what people are saying, what prominent people have said or are saying. And this is what I'm talking about. No one talks about this shit. They want to talk about Bin Laden. That whole shit was bullshit. Alright? You know, Bin Laden was fucking... They're saying he died in 2001. Or, you know, he died in, you know... He wasn't even alive when it happened. He's just a scapegoat. It's just a face that they're using as a you know, when this is Wag the Dog stuff. There's a movie called Wag the Dog, and you have to watch that movie. If you've not seen that movie, watch it, please. It is just brilliant. It's how they create the narrative, how they create the movie of what goes on and what we see and what we then think. So what is they project, this is what we believe, or what a lot of people do believe. But you have to delve into this stuff, and it is not exciting. It is boring, but it's horrific at the same time. So it's not fun. But these are the things that have to be delved into to find any truth. You've got to listen to this stuff. Netanyahu, in his book in 1995, talks about he's predicting a nuclear bomb in the basement of the World Trade Center. Okay, and then days after 9/11, he's bragging and boasting about his prediction in that book. All right. So then we've got the Project for New American Century, and then we also have Emergency Response to Terrorism. Okay, this is like a booklet from FEMA in like 97, 98, 99, and the cover is the Twin Towers with that little crosshair right on that building there. If you see up there, exactly what fucking happened. Alright? Okay, this stuff is being dished out a little bit. Even the DVD there. This is a course that people are taking. Right? Or able to take. Preparing people for this fucking shit. Right? This is not conspiracy. It's here. Okay? It's here. Project for a New American Century. These things being predicted. Also, the founding head of Mossad, Issa Harel. Okay, the geezer was spy master of the intelligence and the security services of Israel and the director of the Mossad. And I think he was later prime minister. Oh no, that's somebody else. Sorry, Issa Harel was spy master, head of Mossad, started it up. He predicted to a fella, okay, called Michael Evans, who was he's like a Zionist preacher. In 1979, whilst having dinner with him on September the 23rd. Funnily enough, as well. Funny that, isn't it? Well, so yeah, he had dinner with this guy, Michael Evans, who was a preacher, a Zionist preacher. And in 1979, Issa Harel predicted and said that the Islamic fundamentalists would ultimately strike America. He said where, and then he replied, in Islamic theory, the phallic symbol is very important. Your biggest phallic symbol is New York City, and your tallest building will be the phallic symbol they will hit. Issa Harel prophesied that the tallest building in New York would be the first building hit by Islamic fundamentalists 21 years ago. Alright? This is Issa Harel, okay? And this is a guy who, I mean, look into it. Have a little read, okay? These guys are real people. Director of Mossad, founding head, okay? And what we also see in other things, such as The Little Drummer Girl, which is a spy novel by John le Carrier, talks about the way Mossad works, okay? If you read the book, basically, and again, it's not Mossad, it's MI5, it's all the secret agencies, it's all the spy agencies around the world, you know, the German Secret Service and everything like that. They all operate in this way, okay? It's not, don't get it twisted. I'm not singling out Mossad, alright? But we're talking about 9/11, and we're talking about how Mossad creates these false flags and how they fund these groups. And even when we're talking about in Palestine and we're talking about Hamas, these groups are allowed, Hamas was allowed to flourish initially and given, you know, and helped by Mossad, you know. And we're talking about even today there is proof that ISIS, okay, this is proven. Have a look on the internet, okay. ISIS is being treated, getting medical treatment in the Golan Heights in Israel by Mossad. All right, so these things are happening. All right, when we're talking about what you're seeing on the news and what you're seeing on the TV and that, it's us versus them, it's ISIS versus the West, it's Islam versus Christianity, it's white versus black, it's fucking all this. What we're living in is absolute fucking mayhem, nuts. Yeah, it's nuts. And 9/11 is it's not good, but it's a good example of how fucked up everything is and how everything is involved with everything, and it's all to do with keeping power and keeping control of stuff, and death it is a death cult. There is no other reason for how much death and destruction there is on the world, how many people dying, how many people killed daily, how much fucking shit is going on. There is no other word for it. The system that is in place right now is the most violent system you could imagine. And that is happening in the world right now. And when people like Slavoj Žižek talk about violence and how we need violence to fight against the violent system, and people get worried about when there's riots and things like that, and he says, look, do you understand how much violence has to happen in order to keep the system working the way it's working? Like imprisonment, you know, people going to jail for not paying tax and doing this and doing that. The whole system of everything, the way it works is violent. If you do not live the way that you are told, by force, you will be sent to jail, or you will be, you know, you'll fucking die. You'll end up on the streets. We live in an oppressive, violent world. Alright, we live in fucking hell right now. And these players are in the secret services everywhere. But we're talking about 9/11, we're talking about Mossad, and this is the plot of Little Drummer Girl is all based to do with Mossad and killing a Palestinian terrorist. Okay, so this Little Drummer Girl was also made into a film, 1984. Another a year we could talk about. So we talked about Issa Harel. What we could also talk about is a gentleman called Ehud Barak, who was former Israeli defense minister, former prime minister. He spoke on the BBC before the towers even fell. From what I can gather, the timing of it was very fucking suspect. Like really suspect. And basically, he was telling the world, basically, the world won't be the same after this. We know who done it. We know where he is. It's Osama bin Laden. And America really needs to kick into this active war against terrorism now. And this guy, Ehud Barak, was the one who was basically telling America what to do. And telling them who it was. And also after this, Benjamin Netanyahu also came out and said it was Osama bin Laden. That's who the people we're getting told who did it are Israelis, and very high up ones as well. So like I say, when we talk about Israel, we've got to talk about the British Empire. They set up Israel, the current situation, they set it up. They gave control of Arabia to the Sauds. And they implemented the Balfour Declaration. When we talk about the British Empire, all of this stuff is like a fucking game. Okay, it's a fucking horrific, murderous, bloody game where these guys are playing a game and people die, and they're doing what they're doing for whatever reasons, and we can get into the darker aspects of it, of why there's so much death, destruction and murder, why there's so many child abductions and why there's so many missing people, what they are doing to these people, where they're going, why so many people die is a whole other video in itself. And that is a fucking legitimate question in life, in the world. Why are so many people going missing? Why are there so many wars? Why are so many people dying? Why are so many people hungry? What the fuck is going on? It is a death cult. So it's all about the British Empire, but who is the British Empire? Alright, we're talking about the Crown, but we're also talking about people like the Rothschilds. And when we talk about Israel and we talk about the British Empire, we've got to talk about the Rothschilds, because the actual Balfour Declaration was addressed to Lord Rothschild, who had wanted a Jewish state. He wanted to protect the Suez Canal and his investments there. They owned it. The Balfour Declaration was actually addressed to the Rothschilds. And it's very, very funny that when I was on the train today, I was over someone's shoulder, a story in the Evening Standard today, who have put out, on 9/11, right, I shit you not, on 9/11, in the Evening Standard, they've got a lifestyle piece, a London Life, about the Rothschilds, an interview with them, Sir Evelyn de Rothschild and Lady de Rothschild, their chocolatier in Pimlico, and it's talking about them being best friends with the Clintons, Trump being a lunatic, punishing the bankers. This is on 9/11, the anniversary of 9/11. They're talking about their fucking, look at this piece. This is such a fucking glory piece. Look at these fuckers. Look at these fuckers. Mocking us, bruv. Mocking. Taking the piss. On 9/11. And George Osborne is fucking editor now of the London Evening Standard. Right? This is not a fucking joke. This is fucking real. Right? And also, talking about George Osborne being the editor now of the London Evening Standard that put this story on the anniversary of 9/11 to do with the Rothschilds, an interview with the Rothschilds. Right? I fucking shit you not. They also have a lot of fucking, he's got a lot of shit, and he always does now, about Jeremy Corbyn. There was one cartoon about him wearing a Brexit jacket with Article 50 on it, and they're talking about, he's dealt a blow. They all define the whip over Brexit, saying the left-wing Labour cannot be stopped. And all this, there we go. It was a long time ago, the uniform was just a joke, I didn't really mean it. taking the piss because of this whole repeal business going on, repeal bill business going on, which is fucking another video in itself. If you know what's going on here, you know they're trying to create laws out of nothing, Henry VIII laws or whatever it is. You know, these fuckers don't give a shit. They're more blasé with it because people in general don't give a shit. People do not fucking care. And this is why sometimes I think I'm just pissing into the wind. Because, you know, 16 years later from 9/11, we've still got people with all the information out there, everything that is available. People still believe what they're being told without even looking into it when you've got so much shit you could have a look at. And this is why I'm doing this video. We are this far down the line and people still believe the narrative. Alright? So, we're talking about these predictions, we're talking about Israel involvement, we're talking about people like Lucky Larry Silverstein. Alright? Talking about Mr. Larry Silverstein, who invested 2 months before, he invested 124 million into the Twin Towers, and he used to go to the Twin Towers every single day and have his breakfast at the top. And then, funnily enough, on 9/11, he didn't have his breakfast at the top. He went to a doctor's appointment, but the doctor's appointment was actually cancelled. So then he spent the morning walking around New York City. Funny that, isn't it? 2 months before he invests 124 million into it, gets an insurance policy out. Then, when 9/11 happens and all of them 3 towers come tumbling down, he gets a $5 billion payout. $5 billion fucking payout. Okay? I shit you fucking not. Okay? This is real. Let me just kick on there for a minute. Alright? So, this is what, you know, this is what we're talking about. Alright? No one's talking about this stuff. We're 16 years later down the line and people still believe in what's being told. This is why I'm doing this video. Look into it. Watch Loose Change. Alright? Look into these things that I'm talking about. Watch what Ehud Barak says in this interview. Okay? Watch this stuff. Read this stuff. Do not just take my word for it. Okay? Look into all of this stuff, please. So we're talking about Mossad's involvement. You know, we're talking about things that you look at about the 5 dancing Israelis. All right? There were on the day when it was happening, it was seen by someone who rang it into the police, and these guys were arrested. 5 guys dancing, videoing the event when it was going on, laughing, high-fiving each other when it was going on. Someone rang the police, they got arrested. 2 months later, they were released back to Israel because they were Israeli citizens, 3 of them at least. 2 of them were, I can't remember where the other 2 were, but I believe they were Mossad agents also. They were all 5 of them sent back to Israel. These 5 dancing Israelis, they're called. Google that, have a look at that. They went then on Israeli television and they were interviewed, and in that interview, I shit you not, alright, one of them turned round and said, "We come from a country that is exposed to terrorism daily." I'm paraphrasing this, by the way. We apparently this, you know, they come from a country where they witness terrorism daily. They were there to document the event. End quote. The video is out there on YouTube. The video is there of them on Israeli TV saying, "We were there to document the event." Now, how can you be there to document the event in that number, 5 of them, fully equipped there, wherever they were to view it, if you didn't know it was going to happen? Alright, it makes no fucking sense. And look into these five dancing Israelis. Alright? So, Lucky Larry Silverstein gets a $5 billion payout. The geezer was such good friends with Benjamin Netanyahu that leading up to the attacks and before it, he was rung apparently every Sunday. He rang Larry Silverstein, Netanyahu, and they would have a chat on the phone. Alright? And then you got all, after 9/11, you had Philip Zelikow. He ran the 9/11 Commission. He's a dual citizenship Israeli citizen. And all these things you've got to look into. You've got to look at who benefits from this shit. Okay, it definitely wasn't America, because they've had to spend loads of money on wars and loads of people are dying, and the place is corrupt and it's fucked. So it's not America's not benefiting from 9/11. Muslims definitely not benefiting. Look at the Middle East; it's completely fucked. So who benefits? Well, Lucky Larry Silverstein benefits. Benjamin Netanyahu benefits. Israel benefits because the Middle East is completely battered now. All its enemies are being taken out one by one. These are the questions you've got to ask. There's also other people that would benefit as well. There's always multifaceted reasons why they do this. There's never ever one reason. They always kill 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 birds with one stone. Another reason, all the evidence of the 90s crimes that was going on. So if you look at the buildings that were actually hit, the places that were hit in the buildings, Marsh McLennan was one place and the Fuji Bank was another place. By the two, they were directly hit. Okay, Marsh McLennan had 500 people out of the 3,000 people killed. 500 of them were their employees. And funny, 2 days before 9/11, Donald Rumsfeld announced that there was something like $2 trillion missing or unaccounted for in the defense budget. It was like fuckloads of money just completely disappeared. And who was investigating that? It was Marsh McLennan. There were the accounting office where the investigation was being done. It was a secured computer room. That was the place where the fucking first plane hit. Right? That's the place. Completely fucking exploded. All the computers just completely exploded into dust. Another place that was hit was the Fuji Bank computer room. That was the second plane. So these things are not, they're not coincidence. They can't be coincidence. Alright? 2 days before Rumsfeld announces all this money going missing, the people investigating it, their offices are on that floor, gets hit by the plane. Basically every single piece of evidence gets wiped out and all their employees that are working on it gone. Boom. So these are the things we're looking out for. We're looking for who's benefiting, and if you look at it, the overwhelming amount of evidence does say that there's some kind of involvement from Israel, because a lot of Israelis have predicted it. Prominent ones: Issa Harel, Ehud Barak, Mr. Netanyahu himself, the 5 dancing Israelis. The fact that we know that Mossad is treating giving medical treatment to ISIS in the Golan Heights. Alright? We've got Mossad in Israel giving medical treatment to jihadi fucking terrorists. It's been proven. So what the fuck is going on? It's 16 years down the line. We've got a lot more information than we had on the day, but still people are none the wiser. Why? And this is why I'm putting this video out, because people don't want to believe it. They don't want to know. They don't want to look into this stuff. And I beg people to just look into it. Forget what you think you know, because the information that you will see in any of these documentaries or anything that I've said today will contradict anything you've been told, and it will provide evidence. These are quotes from people. These are actually real people I'm talking about. Real committees, real organisations. And real agendas. And it's September the 11th, 2017. I am the Diligent Rascal. Get me on the Twitter, @ADiligentRascal. That's @ADiligentRascal. This video has gone on way too long than what I wanted it to. Like, way fucking too long. But the fact is, there's far too much to cover in this, and I've not even covered even half of what I wanted to get into. The fact is, this documentary alone, and this is the problem. This documentary alone, which covers what the media told you and the evidence that contradicts that, it's got firemen in there. It's got all the firemen's audio from the day when they're hearing explosions inside the building. Like, there's that one documentary there. It's the final cut, and there's a shitload more extra documentary footage on top of this. This is 2 hours. That's one aspect of basically how it happened or how it couldn't have happened. That's one aspect. When you talk about who's involved, why they did it, the ramifications of it. They're still implementing policy to this day based on the event that happened 16 years ago, where there was no trial whatsoever. There's been no criminal trial whatsoever, and that was John Ashcroft and Michael Chertoff's fucking job to do that, and they did not do that. Alright? And all 3,000 victims, all the families of the 3,000 victims have all been settled out of court because there has been no court, there has been no trial. Even there was about 100 families that kind of held out until the court case, but even now they've been settled out of court. So there's no recourse now if anything comes out to the contrary of what the narrative is, for them people to go back and go, you fucking murdered our family. There's nothing. They've all been settled out of court. It's all been dealt with. Ground Zero has been flattened. The evidence was taken away, completely obliterated. The narrative has been given to you. That is it. End of story. But the web is still surrounding this event. We are 16 years down the line, but the web of deceit just has to keep getting bigger because they have to keep telling more lies to cover the lies, to cover the lies, to cover the lies. So this is the web that has been created, and all these characters, the Rothschilds, the British Empire, Mossad, Israel, Netanyahu, you know, Project for a New American Century, the neocons, all the Zionists in America, you know, AIPAC, all this shit that's going on, ISIS, all this stuff is a fucking game, okay? All of it is a game, and it's all being played. But the fact is, it's not what they tell you, alright? And even 16 years down the line, it is not too late to be looking into this stuff and see, you know, what is going on. This is why, you know, 16 years down the road, I'm still making this video for everyone to watch if you want to watch it. So I hope I get a few hits on this and I get a few more people watching this video, because it's disappointing when you're putting these videos out and you're putting them about real stuff. Alright, I put videos out about Elsagate, which is what's going on, what are our children watching on YouTube, all the fucked up videos that are marketed for kids that are really messed up and no kids should really be watching them. But they're all over YouTube. That's really important shit, but they're not really getting the hits, and it's because obviously, you know, YouTube is flooded with these kind of videos, and I apologise for doing another video where it's someone just talking, showing you things. But the fact is, this stuff needs to be done right now. It needs to happen because we are 16 years down the line and people still don't know the truth about 9/11. And there is overwhelming evidence that shows you that it was a complete fucking setup, the whole thing. So please watch this video, share it about. I'm going to try and make the tags in the video more hittable, you know. I don't really know what I'm doing with that kind of shit when it comes to meta tags and tagging it and all that kind of shit to get the hits. I just have the information and I'm putting it out there for people. So if anyone's got any suggestions of how I can get my videos more wider out there, any techniques to do, not too underhanded, I'm not buying no fucking likes or any shit like that, buying no views and that, but you know, if there's anything you can help me tagging or whatever, let me know. Hit me up on the Twitter at a diligent rascal. I am a diligent rascal. It is the 11th of September 2017, and I want to thank everyone for watching. This has been a long ass fucking video. It's been emotional, it's been brutal, but the truth is out there. Please go and have a look out there, do your research and find out what's going on, because what happened on 9/11 is still going on today times a million. Now, the agenda is ramped up and we are in a place where the world is literally on fucking fire. We've got places in the world where people are hungry, dying, starving, child soldiers. You know, we've got fucking child prostitutes, we've got fucking degradation, we've got poverty, we've got the whole world is a fucking mess, and it's not getting any better, it's only getting worse because of this narrative and this agenda that is getting pushed. So if you want to stay in your bubbles, people, and this is what really fucking pisses me off, because people aren't really stupid, they just want to be stupid and not look at this stuff a lot of the time. I think it's one of them ones where it's like they can't be bothered, they've got their own problems going on. But that's not an excuse, because these things are now, they're directly affecting our lives, the way the world is and the people that are in control and the agendas being pushed and the things happening. They're directly affecting us. All these wars in the Middle East and shit going on, when you've got refugees coming over here, that then creates issues in individual countries after that. So, you know, that's just one example of it. So These things are important. 16 years down the line, it's still important to look into the stuff. Please look into the stuff. Watch Loose Change. Watch any kind of documentaries you can on it. Look into people like James Perloff, who's talking about it. Look into this stuff. Please have a look at it. And you know, we probably never will know the fucking truth of what's gone on. I hope we do, but I think the only way we will ever know the full truth of everything that has gone on is when we see it, when we pass on from here, because all the information and everything's going to be fucking destroyed. By the time any of us fucking die, it's not going to come out, you know. So it is hoping it does. But let's not end on a somber note. Although it is 9/11, 2017, 16 years down the line, there are a lot more people that are interested in this stuff and that are looking into this stuff and a lot more open-minded, because these things now are affecting people, and it is kind of selfish that people only really get involved when these things kind of directly affect them, but fuck it, nonetheless people are getting involved and people are looking into this stuff, and it is expanding them to look into other stuff as well. So don't be afraid to share this stuff. Don't be afraid to talk about this stuff. Talk about it amongst people, amongst your friends, amongst strangers, amongst whoever you want to talk to. But please do, because this game is not over, and the people in charge and the people that are running shit and playing this game, they're still playing their game, and we got to know what's going on. So I am the Diligent Rascal. Check me out on Twitter. Add me on Twitter at a Diligent Rascal. Thanks very much again for watching. I will catch you up soon with a little news round or something coming up in the next day or so. I'm a Diligent Rascal. Thanks for joining me. Thank you very much. Bye.